we'll get it started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zoom with the Candidates, our 2020 election forum. My name is Suzanne Ortega. I'm the SGA Advisor in Student Life and Development. Our elections committee is listed here. We have Janelle Bassa, our SGA President, Jadalyn Bradley, our Student Trustee, Lilith Garcia, VP of the Menifee Valley Campus, Caitlin Guarna, Commissioner of College Activities, and Donovan Cooper, our Commissioner of Public Relations. Janelle, Lily, and Caitlin are all here to be the moderators today. Janelle, would you like to go over the forum rules?
All right, so before we hear from our candidates, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. No rebuttals and arguments are allowed, and students will answer questions in alphabetical order. And just a reminder, we will remind you if you will be nearing the time of the 2 minutes, so please keep an eye on the chat. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna paste the order that everyone will be going in for each question in the chat as well, so keep an eye on that. Okay, question 1, Janelle.
Right, so for our first candidate speaking today is Anthony Brito. Please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
My name is Anthony Brito. What led me to take interest was my peers, and also with the help to improve the daily life situation at the college, also to be in a position that amplifies the student and provides sort of empowerment in student voices.
Okay, so I'll be asking your second question, Anthony, and it's what top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
First one is interpersonal communication. I feel like this will strengthen the MSJC because we are only as strong as our team, and if we have a good bond, we can achieve anything. Also, being open-minded. I am an individual that believes in teamwork. And that is why if you keep an open mind on views, considering new ideas or being student of new ideas, I feel that will help and the SGA. Lastly, dependability and responsibility. If I'm assigning any tasks for completion, I will always make sure I fulfill this task, and I also take responsibility for my actions and request assistance if desired to provide the best possible result. Thank you.
For your third question, how do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating their feedback into your future plans?
There are 2 things that I've been doing and I plan to keep doing. One of them is being open-minded to new ideas and being a student of the unknown. Second, learn from my peers and experienced personnel in the field. For example, our current Vice President, Diego, always asks for feedback, and after every draft of the recent resolution, and he took notes to add to future resolutions. That made me feel welcome and open-minded and open to sharing my ideas. I will learn from Diego and try to create a feeling of inclusion, which he made me feel.
All right, for your question 4, how will you work to make the Student Government Association in campus more inclusive?
I am pretty involved in multiple clubs and associations. This will help me easily reach out to different demographics and use my interpersonal communication skill and experience from my peers. I will also associate with my peers to ensure their voices are heard.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. For our next candidate is Jamie Cruz. So your first question is, please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Hi, my name is Jamie Cruz. Thank you, coordinating staff and fellow candidates, for being here. I took an interest in SGA because I want to be involved in the higher decision-making process. I understand that SGA is one place that students can go. And if there's changes that I want, then that's where I should be. And as the secretary for a different club, I want to be a voice for students who are invested in social equity, such as myself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
Well, as a leader, I hold myself accountable for my actions, I correct my wrongs, and I do my best in the job that I'm appointed to. As a leader, I actively listen to the people who talk to me. I take notes on their ideas, their issues, and their questions. And as a leader, I have self-awareness. I'm not going to know everything. And knowing this, I can collaborate with different people in a variety of positions and fields of knowledge. And together, these make a leader. I feel like I can do my job properly as Commissioner of Student Equity and Cultural Awareness because I'm part of a certain demographic. And I need to understand other demographics and students who have had different lives than me in order to effectively make MSJC more inclusive and a safer environment.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating their feedback into your future plans?
I just hearing out the student body, that step in and of itself is already incorporating them into your plans because that means you are thinking about change. And one way I hear students out is by talking to them in person. Is I get to know them and I see how they are in their classes and I ask them how they feel about them and things that they want to see at MSJC. And by talking to them, I can see how they feel about it emotionally. And I also talk to my classmates and to my peers because I'm involved in different clubs. And that is one way that I do that.
How will you work to make Student Government Association and campus more inclusive?
Well, one issue that has helped inspire my plans is how we only recognize marginalized groups certain months of the year. And I do not believe that human beings are subscription plans that you can cancel whenever you want. And that part of making the world a better place is by continuing to learn about people's different from us. So I want to bring in guest speakers like every month from different backgrounds, not just in certain months of the year. And I want to have cultural days where people who are from those backgrounds come in and they teach us the meanings and how it is important and how they have ultimately contributed to our society because we all work as one.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. For our next candidate is Thomas Eddington.
Hi.
I'm sorry, guys. The PowerPoint is giving me technical difficulties. 1 second.
So for your first question, please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Yeah, so my name is Thomas Eddington. I have been a student at MSJC for approximately, actually this is my first semester. I am also a computer science student as well. And, you know, I was also a athlete. I played football at Riverside Community College, which is the school I previously attended. And I would say most importantly, the aspect on, you know, my interest in student government. I actually do have a desire to get into government and become a public official. I'd like to become either, you know, Attorney General of California or work my way into the governor's office, actually. So yeah.
Thank you.
What top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
Yeah, so I would say number one would be the fact that I love being a part of a team. I'm a team member, I'm a team player. And also on top of that, I love to lead a team as well. So, I love to be a leader and, play my role as a team player as well. I would say that I'm also very firm on being the best in my position and any role that I have and anything that I do. And I also am building a real estate business as well. So I have, direct experience with leading people in that. And, I've been doing a great job there as well. So, I'd love to take those qualities to student government and, do that directly in my community and in my school, most importantly.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating their feedback into your future plans?
Yeah, so on the aspect of hearing out the student body, I would like to actually give out my own information to people in case they would like to contact me directly for any level of our student body or excuse me of our student government that they're interested in or are just curious in general. And as far as incorporating those plans, I would like to work with the already existing platforms that we have in student government and the members that are already there, since this would be my first time running and having experience in student government. So just utilizing the resources that we already have at our disposal.
How will you work to make Student Government Association and campus more inclusive?
Yeah, so I think that also goes back on a little bit of my previous answer of kind of just exposing a little bit more of student government and just what student government has to offer at MSJC. Because me personally, even though I had an interest in running, I saw that there were a lot of different platforms that MSJC was on, on our campus website, but there wasn't a lot of exposure on directly what it was and what it involves and just a task in general. So I feel that anyone that is interested would need more exposure there. So exposing the platforms that we do have to incoming people from high schools and of course to our own student body as well. And I would also say that I would like to build a sort of a student platform that would allow students to have, again, more direct access to us. So that way, any type of, anything that they would like to, get some feedback on from the administrators of the student government, they can do that directly.
Thank you, Thomas. Next up is Artis Flores. So for your first question, please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Hello, my name is Aris Gabriel Flores Garcia, and I'm a first year. I'm a free student here in MSIC, and the reason I'm here right now is thanks to the staff of MSIC. For example, Miss Jillian and the ex-chancellor Maya, they take my own securities to make me my own empowerment. As a transgender and a foreigner for another country, I never imagined myself being capable to even try to be part of the student government. But now in a safe place, I feel like I'm capable of that one. I've been majoring in biology to then let's go to the medical field. And my goal, if I can be part of the student government, is I wanted to help other students to get that greatness there inside of everybody.
Okay, your second question is going to be, what top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
First of all, I'm kind of a perfectionist when I say about the work. I always gonna do my 100% if any task. I also can offer my experience to understand other students and offer a very flexible time so I'm not afraid to do overtime in any case. And a strong sense of empathy for other students.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating their feedback into your future plans?
As a future working in the medical field, I wanted to give all experience approximate to never forget how can I treat people better, and also getting more involved to the other students. I want to put my personal information as an email or cell phone to get directed the source of the problem so we can be resolved faster and just take away this illusion of the student government is just something more difficult to reach to the normal student.
How will you work to make student government association in campus more inclusive?
First of all, I wanted to create an affinity group, but online, so other foreigner students can share their own experience, so they can create a self environment to keep helping each other and make their own goals. And also, I wanted to add to the first package for the first semester students and MSIC, LGBT health package, so they can know important information as SAGA and the way so they can transgender students can share their name in Canvas.
Yeah. So next up is Ashley Frida. So please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Hi, my name is Ashley Freda. I'm a business administration major. It is currently my second year at MSJC and hopefully my second semester as a member of the SGA. What initially drew me into student government was just a simple desire to make the campus a safer and much more accessible place for people to achieve their goals and regardless of their identity or status. However, what really ended up cementing my interest in student government was this feeling of being part of a larger student-driven and organized movement for change on our campus, and coming to this realization that students should have a stake in the changes being made, especially in an educational institution such as MSJC.
Okay, Ashley, your next question is, what top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
I think the first quality that I possess as a leader is that I'm very detail oriented. So often I find myself critically analyzing situations to make sure everything lines up or is consistent with the standard of quality that I hope to uphold. As a leader, this means that whenever I can, I make sure things are going as intended or we aren't forgetting anyone or leaving anything important unaddressed. I believe consistency is highly important, and I will hold not only myself, but others to that standard. Sometimes, though, not everything goes as planned and details can only get you so far, which leads me to my second quality. I'm very driven. Especially when it comes to matters of activism and responsibility, I like to try seeing things through until the bitter end, working hard on tough issues, even when there are roadblocks or unexpected changes that I have to adapt to. And the third quality that I believe I possess is that I'm open-minded. As stated, activism is very important to me, but for me, part of activism is the willingness to be humbled and educated by individuals around you, or even people you don't know. No matter the student, no matter the concern, I'm willing to engage and have dialogue with them in order to understand what we could do to better assist them have a better experience on campus.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating that feedback into your future plans?
Personally, I am a strong proponent of directly communicating with the student body and rubbing elbows, so to speak, with my peers in order to incite change. As vice president, I plan on being relatively assertive in forming lines of communication with student organizations and clubs, reaching out to my fellow students and student leaders in these clubs as much as I can through email or other direct communication methods. So by speaking with them on a person-to-person basis, I can understand their feedback on a higher level of clarity, bringing these thoughts or concerns to my SGA peers and working to amplify the voices of the student body along with the SGA.
All right. how will you work to make student government association in campus more inclusive?
As mentioned before, I believe that an important aspect of activism is the willingness to be humbled and educated by others around you. I believe this statement becomes even more important when we stop and realize how many people are historically underrepresented and remain underrepresented even today. As a member of the SGA, I will work on not only creating direct communication to these groups, but also push for initiatives that focus on making the entirety of our college's physical and digital spaces one where students feel safe and free to express their thoughts and concerns. Ultimately, Mount San Jacinto College is an educational institution, and I believe there is so much to learn from students of all identities and creeds, especially those that have not had a prevalent voice in the past. Learning does not only come from textbooks, it can come from our peers, and I will work to help create a campus culture that focuses on this idea.
Thank you so much, Ashley. For our next candidate today, we have Diego Martinez. So first question, please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Hello, everybody. My name is Diego Martinez, and I am running for the position of SGA president. So I'm currently majoring in mechanical engineering. And so to start off with some of my background as to why I want to continue my journey in student government, my interest first began during my freshman year of high school, where I noticed there was a big disparity for the resources offered for our Hispanic and Latinx student population, which represented or accounted for over 60% of our student population. And so this was like kind of my first experience and served as my introduction into advocacy. And then from there, I've continued along my journey by interning for my local congressional representative, to even advocating for some ICE raids that were happening to undocumented immigrants in my local community back in the summer of 2019. And so with these experiences, I do hope to continue sharing my voice and insights to the SGA in the role of the president, while also building my own advocacy in this new role, where I'll be exposed to different leadership and different networking connections in terms of the school, as well as beyond MSJC as well, whether that be with the Student Senate for California Community Colleges or with meeting with other student representatives in our local area. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and thank you.
Okay, Diego, your second question is, what top 3 qualities do you possess as a leader? How can these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association at MSJC?
Awesome, thank you for the question. So I think my first skill that I sort of bring towards the SGA would be my ability in terms of networking in the current role as the VP of the San Jacinto campus for SGA and serving as the MSJC delegate for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. I've been able to begin developing a network of student leaders within our college and also on the state level. And so then with these connections and the new ones that I'll be making along the way in this role, I hope to bring greater collaboration, both between the MSJC clubs. So for example, collaborating as the SGA with the honors program or with Phi Theta Kappa, and to kind of bring in more events such as guest speakers or working on goals that we all have our kind of sites targeted towards. And this also goes beyond MSJC as well, and opening a line of communication for student leaders in our local area. So communicating with Riverside City College or with other community colleges within the Riverside County area. And so opening that pipeline of collaboration and communication for our student leaders to further bring more change to each of our respective campuses, I think would be all encompassed within that networking, which is my first skill. The second one would be organization. During the COVID pandemic, I had plenty of time to kind of analyze and figure out which organization methods work for me. And so that involves like planning my day in 30-minute or hour increments to allow like emails or for certain calls that pop up throughout the day and easily fit them into my schedule. And so hopefully implementing project management software to SGA would be something I would like to do. And the third one would be delegation. As the chair of the ICC, I've been able to meet with student representatives and see different events that pop up and delegating those responsibilities to each club to hear what they have to say, as well as being the chair for the resolution that the SGA has been creating and delegating the writing responsibilities among our members. Yeah.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating that feedback into your future plans?
Awesome. Thank you for the question. Okay. So in terms of utilizing the student voice in our future plans, the first one would be collaboration within the SGA. Already looking at this call and seeing all the candidates that we have that'll hopefully be members within our SGA for the next year. Hearing what each of our members have to say with their own backgrounds and their insights, I think would serve as the first crucial step, both in terms of learning how we work as a team and then implementing that change as we all are current students as well. The second one would have to be speaking with the board of trustees. In the role as president, I will be meeting with the board of trustees on a monthly basis and getting a report. And so then hearing any concerns from the students that I hear either within the SGA or on my time in campus would play a major part in this. And the last one would be creating a feedback space, both in person and virtually through our SGA Discord server, which was recently released during our past or current academic year. And so having these spaces where students who are either attending virtually or in person, they have that area, they have that space where they can feel heard, even if they don't want to directly confront our members or if they just don't have the time, as many students are very busy, either with another job or just with a heavy course load. Sometimes it's not as easy to set up those meetings. And so having those feedback boxes would be a solution to kind of look towards for next year.
Diego, how will you work to make student government association in campus more inclusive?
Thank you for the question. So I think one of the best ways that we can, as an SGA in campus, become more inclusive would be reflecting on this exact conversation that we've been having and listening to the answers that our previous members also stated out when they were given this question. I think these have all been great ideas and things to kind of bring back in terms of next year and what we can do. Dealing with inclusivity as a minority Latino student, I understand the many difficulties that may be associated with sharing one's personal voice. And this is also why I aim to work alongside the SGA this year to write several resolutions that we can present to the SSCCC, the Board of Trustees, and even within our SGA ourselves, where inclusivity and disparities can be heard and advocated, not only within MSJC, but also on the statewide level when we bring this up to the SSCCC and further these movements or our own kind of progress that we want to bring towards all the community colleges based on what we've witnessed as students in our areas. And so, yeah, I think that is where I will leave it in terms of how we can become more inclusive. There will be more to come all throughout next year, hopefully in my role and working with the SGA and seeing what we can do.
Thank you so much, Diego. For our next candidate is Julian Minnie. Please introduce yourself and explain what led you to take an interest in student government.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julian Minnie. I am currently second year, and I will be transferring next year to complete my undergrad in neuroscience, then to go on to med school to be a physician for hopefully neurology or neurosurgery. My interest in student government actually came from a previous advisor that Maya, who asked me if I'd be interested. And once I got to the SGA, I realized that the position of being on the SGA was more than just that position. It was one where I could fill in the gaps of the disparities and where the shortcomings were on behalf of the student body. And it's given me such joy over the past few months to be able to be that voice that ensures that the shortcomings are met and that the students' experience on campus will be the best for them until they either graduate or transfer.
Okay, Julian, your next question is what top three
Okay, Julian, your next question is what top three qualities
sorry, they're back. Like, okay, possess as a leader. How can quality in the student government association? Association at MSJC?
So the top three qualities I think that I possess is compassion, open-mindedness, and a objective way of thinking. I think that these qualities strengthen the Student Government Association and MSJC in the way that I can always look at both sides of the situation with an open mind and reason without getting swayed one way or the other. I can look at the situation and assess what is actually needed and that could benefit both sides of both parties in play. The sense of compassion and objective thinking is that when it comes to especially minority groups on campus, it is important to ensure that those groups are catered to and not overlooked at any point, so that, again, that their experience on campus is just as great for them over the period that they are there, and that they aren't overlooked and neglected.
How do you plan on involving and hearing out the student body and incorporating their feedback into your future plans?
My plan is to have numerous smaller gatherings for specific groups on campus, because I believe that when you create a safe and comfortable environment for students to gather with like-minded students, that is when you get to see their true colors come to light, and you can hear their true voices and their true concerns. And that's when you get the real feedback of what their needs and wants are on campus and in classes and just in general. So I would like to arrange those kinds of spaces for students to gather so that we can come to a good game plan for how their experience on campus can be amazing.
How will you work to make Student Government Association in campus more inclusive?
My favorite question. So for me to ensure inclusivity, we need to make sure that the Student Government Association has a wide variety of people from different backgrounds and different ways of thinking. That way we have a whole box of tools that we can use and a whole bunch of strengths that we can use on the SGA. And with that, we also have a great variety of people that can reach out to a whole bunch of students on campus, where we aren't just looking at one side of the coin, we are looking at both, and we can cater to a wide variety of people's needs and wants, which again will help their experience on campus and in class.
Thank you, Julian. So now that we've went through all of our candidate statements, we have time for our bonus questions. So I'm going to say one question and we're going to go down our candidate line. So we're going to with number 3. What is a problem that you've seen on campus that you want to fix? So first up is Anthony Brito.
A problem I would like to fix is the food pantry situation in MSJC. I would like to promote the use of EBT because there's more of an equitable solution This is because food pantry does not have a lot of varieties that supports the nutritional needs for different demographics. Also, I think it is assumed that everyone can cook, which is not so. So the EBT helps students spend on what they can eat and shop in stores that suits their nutritional needs. Thank you.
Next is Jamie for number 3. What is a problem that you've seen on campus that you want to fix?
Personally, a problem that I've seen on campus is a lack of a critical understanding of social problems. Despite the news and different activism, even on the internet, students are not aware. I recently had a conversation with one of my peers who was not aware of the different groups that lie under the LGBTQ+ spectrum. And then in addition to that is the instructors aiding in that lack of awareness, where they will not correct anything in their discussion boards or will not respect the pronouns of students who have it listed in their names. One thing that I've heard is pronouns are a more recent thing, which is not correct. And by saying that, you are erasing all the history and the work that these groups have made to be seen and to be able to live the way they want, because they can't live anywhere else. They can only be themselves. And another problem that I've seen on campus is the resources that are available, like workshops, are not spread to every classroom, and students are struggling in certain areas and they could benefit from those, yet they're only given to honors enrichment students. You know, we are made aware of those things, but other students are not.
Thank you, Jamie. Next is Thomas, again, question 3.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would say one of the main issues that I noticed on campus, more so, within the demographics of our campus, was the lackluster undergraduate amount, or the number of undergraduates for the African American community. And I think that starts out, at an earlier stage, like I said, previously in high school. And I would say that getting more exposure to even just the programs that MSJC has, outside of, just sports, to other kids, specifically African American kids, and having more clubs that are, specific to African Americans would be something that, could resolve that issue. And yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Next is Aris for question 3 again.
Hi, well, sadly, I'm not on campus yet. I plan to go in the fall, but according to the academic online, a problem I see is even for the first semester students, they don't give enough support for the LGBT community. As an example, as a personal problem, I don't go out as a transgender into the 21 something. And when I try to first change my own name and canvas so I don't feel that bad seeing my dead name every single sheet of paper, or even teachers calling me that. When I try to get my own help, teachers just saying stuff like, "Oh, you need to do your own legal people yet," and that wasn't true yet. So even I need to reach out my own information, find YouTube, make it more difficult to make me feel comfortable. And first of all, I was thinking this was my own problem, but now thinking about it, probably more transgender students happen to that. Another problem for a real campus in Geme, for example, was conducted with another candidates, is we don't have our recycled papers yet. So that was 2 problems I'm gonna address if I was in the position yet.
Okay, thank you, Alice. And next is Ashley, question 3 again.
Yeah, I mean, there are a variety of problems that I see on campus every single day, whether it comes from feeling like my peers don't get enough information on workshops or programs that we have on campus, or perhaps feeling like maybe we don't do enough in terms of green energy or being a more green and eco-friendly campus. For example, something that I thought of recently was going to the San Jacinto campus. It's very difficult to find a recycling bin. You can find one in the cafeteria, but they're not really accessible around the campus. At least I haven't seen very many of them. And that's a small thing that I feel would go a very long way to being a more eco-friendly and green campus. And yet we haven't taken these steps and we haven't pushed for these things. So I feel like there's a lot of basic steps that we're missing in terms of being more eco-friendly or even just taking more initiative to address some of the concerns going on, especially in that sense, but also when it comes to programs and my peers not knowing much about them, and maybe they're not being updated boards sometimes when I walk on campus. The events are not very frequently updated.
Thank you, Ashley. Next is Diego, again with question 3.
Hello, yes. I think it is very eye-opening to see all the different answers that everybody has given and knowing that each one of them has been a unique issue that they've witnessed. I think that shows kind of like the wide spectrum of kind of what each of us has gone to experience when it comes to MSJC. Out of that myself personally, what I've kind of noticed was the kind of lack thereof for open educational resources courses that are offered by MSJC. It's known that 19% of students choose the courses that they choose, whether or just based off of if that class is open educational resource and that means pretty much the class is free of charge. There are no textbook costs, no materials that you have to buy. The class is completely free. And so those are typically the ones that get filled up first. And so kind of knowing where we are, knowing MSJC primarily represents families or students who come from a lower income area, and seeing that we have so few courses offered for these students is a concern. And then also understanding how professors can make that transition towards open educational resources offerings for their courses. Because I know that for myself in engineering, things can get pretty tricky, and there are softwares that are being offered by these major developers, which normally cost like $100 or $60, that do have student discount codes, but MSJC just has not opted to go with those. And it's kind of just like, why are we doing this game where we have this open resource for everybody to use, but we don't go with it, and we're going with more outdated software? And so having those conversations with staff and faculty would go about kind of fixing that solution or bringing that dialogue towards the staff to kind of make MSJC a more inclusive campus, and hoping to fix that problem in the end. Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
Thank you, Diego. And lastly, Julian Minnie. Question 3.
Problem that I've noticed on campus is that there is definitely a lack of representation for minority groups, that being the LGBTQ+, the Black and African American groups, but more specifically, these groups lack representation if they are not part of a club that requires an academic threshold. So once they graduate, they don't get recognized as their specific affinity groups. And I would like to push for them to be recognized once they transfer or graduate as being a part of that affinity group, and being proud of that status that they have.
Okay, thank you, Julian. So we do have time for one more bonus question, and I want to pass this to our VP of Menifee Valley Campus, Lily Garcia.
Okay, hi everyone. So we're going to start off with Anthony. And the question I'm going to ask you is, how familiar are you with Student Government Association at MSJC? Are there any changes you plan to make to improve the current system?
I am the current Senator of Equity and Cultural Affairs. I have been observing and learning from the commissioners to student trustee, the vice president, and the president to know what it means to be in SGA. So yes, I do have plans. One is to improve our views on equity and how we try to include everyone without anyone feeling left out. Thank you.
Okay. Our next candidate that we're gonna ask is Jamie Cruz. So number 2.
Personally, in all honesty, I am not familiar with SGA at all. It's my first time running for an SGA office, and that's part of what makes it exciting. I know that in essence, SGA is a body that works to be a voice for all MSJC students, and on a larger scale, a voice for the community college system as well.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go to Thomas. So if you can give us for number 2.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I would say that I am familiar with leading. You know, I wouldn't say that specifically in student government, but again, I believe that, you know, being a leader is applicable to anything in any role in any situation, you know, that's put in front of you. So, you know, like I said in the previous, you know, questions, I believe that my experience from being in business and also being on the football team and, you know, going through all those experiences has, you know, given me those qualities to understand what it is to lead. And as far as making changes in student government or in the student government system, you know, again, I would say that one of the main changes I would make is to ensure more exposure, like I said, to the systems that we have and to the platforms that, you know, student government has built. And on top of that, create more clubs to expose some of the minority groups, like, you know, some of the other candidates were saying as well.
Thank you. So Iris, you're up next. If you can give us a response for number 2.
To be honest, this is my first time doing any of the government associations. My closely enough experience was when I was in high school. I created my own affinity groups. And about changes over here, I already have, like, everybody's explained the same thing. We're going to expose more of the minority and make the campus even a better place to everybody. And I think we're going to a good path because everybody candidates here seem to be in the same page. So I think that'll be it, like sharing more information so we can reach more people and sharing that to everybody else so we can do actually something.
Thank you. Next up is Ashley.
Yeah, I would say that I am somewhat familiar with the SGA as I am the current commissioner of student equity prior to running for the vice president position. As a result, I've had some time to think about the current system in the SGA. And one change that I'd really like to see is a more simple way for SGA officers to gain information about their position and what their predecessors have learned as members of the SGA. Having spoken to my peers, I kind of realized there's a large learning curve that comes from joining the SGA, and something that I've personally been working on is a handbook in order to make sure that onboarding and joining the SGA is a much more easy and simple experience for anyone that's interested. And that way it doesn't feel as intimidating or daunting for some students as it felt for me and some of the people that I have spoken to. But in the future, on top of this handbook, I'm also thinking of creating potential events that not only focus on allowing current SGA officers to learn more about SGA as a whole, but also potentially SGA alumni to come and contribute and participate and share their knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next candidate is Diego. So if you can give us a response to number 2.
Thank you so much, Lily. Yes, so I am pretty familiar with SGA as I am serving for the year as the vice president for the San Jacinto campus. And so I've been able to kind of gain a really good understanding for how SGA functions and seeing how we're able to kind of demonstrate our voice and advocacy and seeing the different avenues that are available towards us. A few changes that I did notice throughout the year would be the communication with our faculty or advisors. As there's been a lot of changes that happened throughout the year, a lot of advisors left this year, leaving us with our beloved Suzanne, thank you for still staying with us as our sole advisor for the time being. I've noticed that there's been not a lack of communication, but rather not as much open communication as I would have hoped for the positions that we're in. And so being able to open those pipelines between both the students and the advisors to really kind of understand how the advisors are there to assist us and see all the knowledge that they already know and that they can share with our future incoming SGA members for this year. And then another one would be seeing how our meetings are structured in terms of how our meetings are ran, following Robert's rules of order, as well as imposing new time limits possibly for each of our items, and kind of seeing how our group dynamic works as well, whether that be through our retreats or having more team bonding specific activities before the year officially begins in the fall, to kind of see how the intergroup dynamic really is and seeing how we all can collaborate with each other and seeing our different interests to see what we can all work on and see the common issues that we really want to focus on and hit the ground running when the fall hits us. But yeah, those are the current changes that I see. Given the time limit, I will end my answer there.
Thank you, Diego. And Julian, if you can please give us a response to number 2. Thank you.
I would say that I am pretty familiar with the Government Association, as I am the current Commissioner of Institutional Effectiveness, which essentially is the secretary. So I've taken care of all the meeting minutes, and I've seen and heard a lot that the rest of my team have spoken, and ideas that have been put forward and that have come to light. One thing that I would like to improve on the current system is that we definitely take more time and opportunities to do resolutions for the students at MSJC, as well as ones that we could build to actually take to the SSCCC to implement at all community colleges across California. Yeah, we don't often get the opportunity to write a lot of resolutions, and it is a tricky situation. But I think that the more that we speak to the students, like I plan on doing, the better and easier it will become for us to make that change on campus.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you everybody for your wonderful responses to the bonus questions. I will now redirect it to our president, Janelle.
Thank you, Lily. So I'm in awe. So awesome hearing everyone's statements today. I know the cabinet next year is going to be on fire. Here is more election details, and make sure to campaign this week, because you're going to need it, right? So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to actually pass this back to Suzanne. Awesome work.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for your participation today in this candidate forum. Here are some election details, as Janelle mentioned, for all our viewers at home. The election is next week, May 9th through 12th, so Monday through Thursday. The link to the ballot will be sent to your student email if you are currently enrolled in classes, so check your student email for that link on Monday. The virtual polls will be open from 8 a.m. on Monday until 5 p.m. on Thursday the 12th. So make sure you get your votes in before then. If you want to learn more about the students here today and see a picture on the website, then visit here on the election webpage for more details about our candidates. Thank you all for joining us here tonight, and have a good evening.